What's up, everybody? This is another episode of SPORTS-REUBEN-LIFE. This is Ruben coming at you here. I'm going to jump right into it. We're going to talk Major League Baseball. I know this is the off season. I know we don't ever talk about it. This video is probably not going to get a bunch of views, but it's newsworthy, and I'm going to tell you why, right? Here's my observation of this whole thing. Now, recently, Strasburg of the World Series champ Washington Nationals, jeez Louise, he just got a deal for 7 years, $245 million. That's like $35 million a year. That's Clayton Kershaw money. That's big money. Now, this guy, it's rare because this guy had major surgery and he was able to get a giant contract, right? So that being said, that's kind of a weird thing for people to get because usually when they're hurt like that, you know, they really don't get those giant deals. But in the day and age of, you know, these big money, baseball and all these sports are becoming really big money because these TV contracts, right? They're really giant. But more importantly, here's the interesting part of this whole story. Like, that's not really news in itself, right? We report on real stuff here. We report on interesting angles on the stories, right? And so the interesting angle on this story here is he deferred $11.5 million essentially every year, right? Like $80 million he deferred, right? So that being said, how is it okay? So when you defer all that money, you have to obviously get a player to allow that to be deferred, right? You know, that has to be something that's on the table, right? In other words, like the player themselves has to say, okay, I'm open to that kind of concept, right? However, why is that even allowed in today's union? Like, the collective bargaining agreement has allowed this. However, it gives an unfair advantage to these major market teams because it dangles something in front of people that otherwise wouldn't be available. And so the details of this contract will be interesting. And I'm going to try to figure this out later on as we go on, because it's kind of like I'm kind of like news reporting here. Like, I'm going to dig deep into this. And the whole thing is, does he lose that money if he gets traded or he leaves or he opts out? Like, is this 7-year deal now? So does this marry him to 10 years with them? So that's kind of the question of the whole thing. It's like, I'm reading the article here and it talks about, you know, basically, you know, $11.5 million a year is being deferred, which is account to, you know, $80 million or whatever. But the more crux of the whole story is, like, how do you match that if you're a small market team? How do you offer, if you're the San Diego Padres and you sign Manny Machado to this big giant deal, how do you get another player? How do you get another player and say, we'll give you the same money that Manny Machado has, but we're going to give it to you 5 years after you retire, right? So there's an interesting dynamic of that, of how that all plays out, where you are baiting players into making more money, but they're basically not paying them more money up front. Small market teams can't even offer the $23 million a year, much less the $11 million in deferred payment. So I think that's something weird there. That favors the big market teams, and it's kind of a cheat code for them in terms of how they're able to package these giant deals. Because the agents know that this team has a lot of money. They know that they have the availability to the cash. So they're going to immediately try to get the cash. And this is a way so that they can quote unquote, keep a team good or to build for the future. All these other erroneous things that these baseball teams say that they're trying to do, right? And I'm going to get into it with these other teams, but let's connect the dots on this other story here, right? So there's that, right? And then this is something else with baseball, because I'm not going to do 2 baseball videos because then, you know, they're going to delete my channel because that's just the way it works. So Yankees offer Garrett Cole eclipses the record-setting Steven Strasburg deal. I don't know why I can't talk today, but they're going to offer him even more money, right? And so are they going to defer too? So in other words, can I offer a baseball player $1 billion and I'll pay you $1 million for the next 100 years? Is that the way they're going to do it? Can I pay you $10 million for the next 100 years until your kids retire? Like, I don't know, there's this weird thing where they talk about deferred money and the way that kind of is structured. It struck me as kind of a weird deal here, right? So the 7 years, $245 million that Strasburg was offered and accepted means that he could potentially be in the highest, one of the highest paid players of all time. Now, he's not a young kid, right? He is 31 years old, so he's been playing in the major leagues since he was 21. He has some years, right? So at the end of this contract, that's going to put him at 17 or 18 years completed, right? So this guy's had a lot of big contracts. So he signed, right? He's already made $110 million. So that'll put him theoretically at $355 million if he fulfills this whole contract, right? So he was currently in a contract which paid him up until 4 years later. So he had a deal up until he was 34 years old. So basically they restructured the contract, and here's an interesting thing about that contract, right? In 2020, he was set to make $25 million, right? He can opt out after that year, after the following year, right? In 2021, he's age 32, he was gonna get $15 million. Then age 33 is gonna get $15 million. And check this out, his contract stated that at age 34 in 2023, he was supposed to make $45 million, right? So that's 45 and 30, that's 75, and 5 is 80, that's $100 million over 4 years, right? So that's $25 million a year. So look at these crazy numbers. With the deferred money, he's actually taking a pay cut per year so they can guarantee him 3 more years. And that $80 million that is deferred. Now, I don't know, is that a genius move or is that a bad move? But he's basically taking a $2 million pay cut on average per year, just so he can get those other contract years. Now, let me bring this up, okay? Albert Pujols, right? One of the this guy, you want to talk about Hall of Famer? Like, okay, this guy got stats on stats on stats. This guy has an amazing career. He just completed his 19th year, and this guy made a ton of money too, right? So this guy signed a big deal with the Angels. He signed a big deal with the Cardinals, and so he's making all this money. He's set to make $29 million. He's at age 40, and he's making $29 million, right? Strasburg is going to be 37 or 38, and he's only going to make $23 million. So who's the better negotiator? Who's the better agent when this whole deal happens, right? Albert Pujols is entering his 40th year, his age 40, like his 20th year in the majors, and he's going to make $29 million. And he has a 10-year, $10 million personal services contract begins at once player contract expires. So once he retires, he gets $1 million a year for 10 years. That's another deferred payment, right? So he's already made $285 million. Pujols has already made $285 million in his career, and he's set to make another 60, which puts him at 340. Right? Plus the 10 million over 10 years, that puts it in at 350. So Strasburg, technically, if he ends his career at age 37 or 38, whatever it ends up being, he still has matched the year-to-date earnings of Albert Pujols. And these are two players that are going to play for a long, long time, right? Now, we're not talking about the Mike Trouts and the, coming up, the Cody Bellingers. Cody Bellinger is going to he's going to break all the records. This kid, if he gets MVP again, he's going to get paid oodles and oodles of money, and the Dodgers should pay him. I don't know if they are, but they should. And they should do this deferred thing so we can keep Bellinger for a long time, and he can be the face of baseball. Kershaw's on his way down. That's where these big contracts are going. I like the deferred concept only because of the fact that, one, it allows you to keep a big player in a big market, right? That's what it boils down to. So anyways, Garrett Cole got this big old offer from the New York Yankees that's supposed to be bigger than Stephen Strasburg's of the Washington Nationals. We'll see how it turns out, right? Yankees give giant contracts to people because they have a ton of dough, and they need these players to keep their network going, right? In the Yankees, it's a give-take situation with them. But anyways, I thought that was interesting. It's a baseball story. I know we're in the off-season. I'm going to cover baseball like crazy when baseball season comes around. There's going to be oodles of stories there. But I had to throw this out there because this just happened. This is a developing story. Last couple of days it's been developing here, and we're here on a Tuesday, and I thought this would be something you guys would be interested in. But like I said, Albert Pujols was 41 when he ends his contract. Strasburg would theoretically be 37, 38. Maybe he could get another couple of years, which is not likely. So in the 7 years, he can renegotiate again. He kind of took a pay cut. So don't be so wowed by his contract. That whole deferred money thing, that's a whole nother ball game that I think they should do. But what are you going to do with this? So anyways, if you guys like this video, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Look forward to doing the next video. Thank you guys. Bye. Comment below. Bye.